The gym always smelled like rain in the late afternoons, even when the sky outside was a hard, cloudless blue. It was the echo of wet sneakers, the whisper of sweat-soaked jerseys, and the way the air clung to your skin after hours of drills and shouted plays. That day, I remember sitting alone on the cold metal bench, spinning a basketball between my palms, listening to it hum softly against the rubber floor every time it slipped. My name is Ethan, and basketball was supposed to be simple for me. Dribble, pass, shoot, repeat. It was a routine that wrapped around my days like armor, keeping my thoughts busy and my feelings tucked away where no one could see them. I liked the rhythm of it. The predictability. The way my heartbeat matched the bounce of the ball. He broke that rhythm without even trying. Lucas always showed up late, like the world ran on a schedule he didn't care to follow. The doors would creak open halfway through warm-ups, and he'd jog in, hair still damp from the rain or a rushed shower, flashing that half-smile like an apology he knew we'd accept. He was taller than most of us, broad-shouldered, with eyes that held a quiet intensity, like he was always thinking about something he never said out loud. That day, he didn't come in at all. I kept glancing at the door between drills, telling myself it didn't matter. Teammates were laughing, arguing about music for the locker room speakers, complaining about the coach's mood. Everything was normal. Too normal. The kind of normal that makes a small, strange absence feel louder than it should. After practice, the rain finally came. It drummed against the windows of the gym in a steady, patient rhythm, like it was waiting for someone to answer. I pulled my hoodie over my head and stepped outside, the cool air biting at my face, my breath turning white in front of me. Lucas's bike was still chained to the rack by the entrance. That's when the unease settled in my chest, slow and heavy. He never left it behind. Not once. I stood there longer than I meant to, watching the rain blur the world into soft gray lines, my thoughts drifting to all the moments we'd shared on the court. The way he'd clap my shoulder after a good play. The way our eyes met across the floor, a silent understanding passing between us. I told myself I was reading too much into things. Still, my phone felt heavier in my pocket as I pulled it out. I stared at his name on my screen, my thumb hovering over the call button. A dozen questions ran through my head, none of them brave enough to turn into words. The rain kept falling. Somewhere between the sound of water on concrete and the quiet buzz of my phone in my hand, I realized this wasn't just about a missing teammate. It was about something I'd been pretending not to feel, something that had been building every time Lucas walked into my life a little late, a little unexpected, and left me wondering what he was carrying with him. I hit call, and as the ringing filled my ear, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever came next would change more than just our game. The next morning arrived wrapped in the kind of quiet that feels borrowed, like the world is holding its breath before something decides to move. Rain had washed the streets clean overnight, leaving the sidewalks slick and shining, reflecting the pale gold of the early sun. I lay in bed longer than usual, staring at the ceiling, my phone resting on my chest where Lucas's unanswered call still glowed in my memory. No messages, no missed calls, just silence. I rolled onto my side and listened to the soft hum of my apartment building waking up. Someone upstairs dragged a chair across the floor. A distant radio crackled with morning news. The smell of coffee drifted in from somewhere down the hall, warm and bitter, familiar enough to be comforting. It should have grounded me. Instead, it made the emptiness in my chest feel sharper. I told myself I was overreacting. Teammates missed practice sometimes. Phones died. Life happened. But Lucas wasn't just another teammate. He was the one who stayed late after drills, shooting free throws in the half-lit gym, asking me to rebound for him. The one who remembered my birthday when everyone else forgot. The one who looked at me like he was searching for something in my face, something he didn't know how to ask for. I finally got up, pulled on a hoodie, and stepped outside. The air still carried the scent of rain, clean and metallic. Puddles lined the edges of the street, reflecting fragments of sky. I walked without a plan, letting my feet choose the path, until I found myself heading toward his place. Lucas lived in a narrow townhouse near the edge of campus, the kind with chipped paint on the porch rail and a crooked mailbox that leaned like it was tired of standing straight. I'd been there a few times before, usually with the rest of the team, loud and careless, filling his living room with noise and the smell of cheap pizza. Seeing it quiet felt wrong, like walking into a room after everyone's left a party. I stood at the bottom of the steps, hesitating. My heart beat harder than it ever did during a game. I told myself I was just checking in. Being a good teammate, a good friend. I knocked. The sound echoed through the house, dull and hollow. I waited, counted my breaths, knocked again, a little louder this time. Nothing. I was about to turn away when I heard it. A soft thud from inside, like something had been dropped. Or maybe someone had shifted their weight. My stomach tightened. Lucas. I called out, my voice thinner than I meant it to be. There was a pause, long enough for doubt to creep in, long enough for me to wonder if I'd imagined it. Then the door unlocked with a quiet click, and it opened just a crack. Lucas stood there, eyes tired, hair a mess like he'd run his hands through it too many times. He looked smaller somehow, like the weight of something invisible was pressing down on his shoulders. Ethan, he said, my name landing between us like a secret. Relief flooded through me so fast it almost made my knees weak. You missed practice, I blurted out. And you didn't answer your phone. I thought. I know, he cut in gently. He opened the door wider, stepping back. Sorry, come in. The house was dim, curtains half drawn, sunlight slicing through in thin, dusty beams. The air smelled like cold coffee and something sweet, maybe laundry detergent. It felt lived in and empty at the same time. I followed him inside, my eyes adjusting, my senses on edge. We stood there for a moment, neither of us moving, like we were waiting for the other to say something important. You okay? I asked. He shrugged, a small, careless movement that didn't match the tension in his jaw. Yeah, just needed a day. I nodded, pretending that was enough. Pretending I didn't see the way his hands trembled when he shoved them into his pockets. We ended up in the kitchen, leaning against opposite counters. The fridge hummed between us, filling the silence. Outside, a car passed, its tires hissing on wet pavement. I didn't sleep, he admitted suddenly, eyes fixed on the floor. Every time I closed my eyes, it felt like there was this noise in my head. Like something I couldn't turn off. I swallowed. About what? He looked up at me then, really looked, and for a second, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something deep and dark. About everything, he said. About who I am. About who I'm not. The words hung there, heavy and unfinished. I stepped closer without realizing it, the space between us shrinking. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. He laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. That's the problem. I want to. I just don't know how. The fridge kicked off, plunging the room into a deeper quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Try, I said. He hesitated, running a hand through his hair. Do you ever feel like you're playing a part? Like everyone's watching you, expecting you to be this version of yourself you didn't choose? The question hit too close to home. I thought about the court, the cheers, the easy smiles, the way I tucked pieces of myself away because it felt safer that way. Yeah, I admitted, all the time. His shoulders sagged, just a little, like he'd been holding that breath for longer than I knew. We moved to the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch. The cushions dipped under our weight, the fabric rough against my palms. Sunlight caught dust in the air, turning it into something almost beautiful. I didn't come to practice because I was scared, he said quietly. Of what? He met my eyes, and for a moment, the world narrowed to that look. Of you. My chest tightened. Why? He stood up abruptly, pacing the length of the room. Because when I'm around you, everything gets louder. My thoughts. My feelings. I start noticing things I shouldn't. Like what? I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. He stopped, his back to me. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, filled with everything he wasn't saying. I watched the rise and fall of his shoulders, the way his hands clenched into fists at his sides. I don't know how to be normal about you, he finally said. The words hit me like a shock, sending a ripple through my entire body. I stood up without thinking, closing the distance between us. You don't have to be normal, I said. You just have to be honest. He turned, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. There was fear there, and something else. Something that mirrored what I'd been trying not to name in myself. For a second, neither of us moved. The house felt too small, the air too thick. Somewhere in the distance, a door slammed. A dog barked. Life went on. Inside that living room, it felt like we were standing on the edge of a moment that could tip us in a direction neither of us could come back from. Ethan, he started, then stopped. He swallowed hard. If I say this, everything changes. I thought about the rain, the unanswered call, the way my heart had led me here without my permission. I thought about the version of myself I'd been playing for everyone else. Maybe it needs to, I said. He took a step closer. I did too. The space between us disappeared, replaced by a tension so sharp it felt like it could cut. I could see the faint scar on his chin, the way his eyes flicked to my mouth and back again. He opened his mouth to speak. And then his phone buzzed in his pocket, loud and sudden, shattering the moment like glass. He froze, pulling it out with shaking hands. His face changed as he read the screen, the color draining from it. "What is it?" I asked. He looked up at me, and whatever he saw in my eyes made his expression soften and harden at the same time. "It's my brother," he said. "He knows." My stomach dropped. "Knows what?" Lucas glanced toward the door, like he was already planning his escape. "That I've been lying," he said. "And he wants me to come home. Right now." The weight of unspoken words pressed down on both of us. The moment we'd been teetering on slipped through our fingers, replaced by something colder and more uncertain. He shoved his phone back into his pocket, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know what to do." I stepped closer, my voice steady even though my heart wasn't. "You don't have to decide everything today." He met my eyes, searching. "What if I don't get another chance?" The question echoed in the small room, unanswered, hanging between us like a promise or a warning. Somewhere outside, the clouds rolled back in, and the light in the room dimmed, as if the world itself was preparing for whatever came next. Lucas didn't leave right away. He stood there in the middle of his living room, phone still warm in his pocket, like the decision his brother demanded was a weight pressing down on his chest. The light from the window had dulled, clouds smearing the sky into a soft gray, and the room felt like it was sinking into itself. "I should go," he said, but his feet didn't move. I watched him, every part of me caught between wanting to pull him closer and wanting to step back, to protect both of us from whatever edge we were standing on. "Do you want to?" I asked. He shook his head. "I don't know what I want anymore." We sat back down, closer this time, our knees almost touching. The couch dipped under our combined weight, and the air between us felt charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. He exhaled slowly. "My brother thinks he knows me. He's got this whole version of who I'm supposed to be. Strong, straight, simple." His jaw tightened. "I've been trying to live up to it my whole life." I swallowed. "And you?" "I'm tired," he said. "Tired of pretending I don't feel things. Tired of pretending you don't matter to me." The words landed heavy and fragile all at once. My chest tightened, a mix of relief and fear twisting together. "Lucas, if this is about me, I need you to be sure. I can't be another thing you hide." He looked at me then, really looked, like he was memorizing my face. "That's the problem. I don't want to hide you. I'm just scared of what happens if I don't." The room went quiet except for the distant rumble of thunder. The sound rolled through the walls, low and steady, like a warning. I stood up, pacing a few steps away, my hands running through my hair. "I've been scared too," I admitted. "Every time I look at you on the court, every time you laugh at something I say, I feel like I'm walking around with this secret glowing inside me. I don't know what to do with it." He rose to his feet, mirroring me. "What if we stop pretending it's not there?" The question hung between us, daring and dangerous. I took a step closer. "And then what?" His voice dropped, softer. "Then we find out what it means." Thunder cracked again, closer this time, and the lights flickered. For a heartbeat, the room dipped into shadow, and when it came back, we were standing inches apart. I could see the way his breath caught, the slight tremble in his hands. My own pulse thudded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. "Say something," I whispered. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally said, "I think about you when I shouldn't. When I'm alone. When I'm trying to be the person everyone expects me to be. He laughed softly, but it broke halfway through. You're always there, like a question I can't answer. My throat tightened. You're not the only one. For a moment, we just stood there, the space between us electric with everything we weren't saying. The front door rattled suddenly, the handle jiggling like someone was trying to get in. We both froze. Lucas. A voice called from outside. A man's voice. Familiar. Firm. His face drained of color. That's my brother. My heart slammed against my ribs. The world outside this room, outside this moment, crashed back in all at once. Open the door, his brother said, louder now. Lucas looked at me, panic and something else, resolve, fighting in his eyes. I didn't tell him where I was going. He must have followed me. The handle rattled again. You okay in there? His brother called. Lucas's hands clenched into fists. He took a breath, then another, like he was bracing himself for impact. If he sees you, what? I asked, my voice low. He shook his head. I don't know what he'll think. What he'll say. I don't know if I'm ready for that. The knock came again, sharp and insistent. Lucas, open up. Time felt like it slowed, every second stretching thin. I stepped closer to him, close enough that our shoulders brushed. You don't have to do this alone, I said. He looked at me, eyes searching. Are you sure? I nodded, even though my own fear buzzed under my skin. Yeah. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, slowly, he reached for the door. He opened it just enough for his brother to see his face. What's going on? His brother asked, scanning the room behind him. His eyes landed on me, and something flickered there, surprise, suspicion, maybe recognition. Ethan, he said, from the team. I nodded, my mouth dry. Yeah. Lucas stood between us, like a shield. He's just checking on me. Checking on you, his brother repeated, skeptical. He looked back at Lucas. You didn't come home. You didn't answer your phone. Mom's worried. I needed space, Lucas said. His brother's gaze softened for a split second. From what? Lucas hesitated. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, filled with all the things he'd been holding back. I watched his jaw tighten, watched him swallow hard. From lying, Lucas said finally. His brother blinked. About what? Lucas glanced at me, just for a second, like he was asking permission without words. I met his eyes and nodded. He took a breath. About who I am. The room seemed to tilt. His brother stared at him, then at me, then back at Lucas. What are you saying? Lucas's voice wavered, but he didn't stop. I'm saying I'm tired of pretending I don't feel things. That I don't care about people the way I do. The air felt too thin to breathe. His brother ran a hand over his face. This is about him, he asked, gesturing toward me. Lucas didn't answer right away. He looked at the floor, then back up, and when he spoke, his voice was quiet but steady. It's about me. Another long, unbearable pause. Thunder rolled outside, punctuating the moment like a drumbeat. His brother exhaled sharply. You don't have to figure this out right now, he said. Come home. We'll talk. As a family. Lucas looked torn, pulled between the door and the room behind him, between the life he knew and the one he was just beginning to see. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, my presence a question he had to answer for himself. He turned back to me, eyes shining with unshed tears. I don't know what happens next, he said softly. Neither do I replied. But I'm here. He took a step toward me, then stopped, caught between two worlds. His brother waited at the door. The storm outside raged on. And in that suspended moment, with rain beating against the windows and thunder echoing in the distance, Lucas had to choose which truth he was ready to live with. The door closed softly behind his brother, but the sound felt louder than the thunder outside. The house settled into a strange, suspended quiet, like it was holding onto the echo of what had almost been said. Lucas and I stood where we were, neither of us moving, the space between us no longer charged, just fragile. The storm had shifted. Rain traced slow, uneven lines down the windows, blurring the world beyond into muted shapes and colors. A streetlight flickered on outside, its pale glow bleeding into the living room and painting Lucas's face in soft gold and shadow. He let out a breath he'd been holding, shoulders sagging. I thought I was ready, he said. But when he showed up, it was like everything I've ever been afraid of walked in with him. I nodded, my own heart still racing. You didn't run. He gave a small, tired smile. I wanted to. We sank back onto the couch, leaving a careful inch of space between us. The cushions creaked under our weight. My hands rested on my knees, fingers curling and uncurling, like I was trying to ground myself in something solid. Lucas stared at the floor. When I was younger, I promised myself I'd never make things complicated. I'd just be the guy everyone expected. The guy who fits. He glanced at me. Then you showed up, and suddenly everything felt louder. The word hung between us, heavy and tender. I swallowed. I didn't mean to. I know, he said. That's what makes it worse. You didn't do anything. You just exist. The rain intensified, drumming against the roof in a steady, almost soothing rhythm. I focused on the small details, the way his knee bounced slightly, betraying his nerves. The faint scar on his knuckle, white against his skin. The way his breath hitched when he spoke my name. Ethan, he said softly. Yeah. He hesitated, eyes tracing the edge of the coffee table instead of looking at me. Do you ever wish you could go back to before things got complicated? I thought about the court, the easy laughter, the way we'd shared jokes without second-guessing every glance, every pause. Sometimes, I admitted, but I don't think I'd trade this for that, even if it scares me. He looked up then, really looked, and something in his expression shifted, surprise, maybe, or relief. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. I became acutely aware of every inch of space between us, every breath, every heartbeat. He reached out, stopped halfway, then let his hand fall back to his lap. The hesitation said more than any words could. Lucas, I said quietly, you don't have to decide anything tonight. I know, he replied. But I also know if I don't face this, I'll keep running. And I'm tired of running. Silence stretched between us, not empty, but full, of questions, of unspoken feelings, of everything that might happen if one of us moved an inch closer. He finally turned toward me, our knees brushing. The contact was barely there, but it sent a ripple through me all the same. His breath caught, and I saw the same reaction in his eyes that I felt in my chest. I don't know what this is, he said. I don't know what it means for me. For you. Neither do I replied. But I know it's real. He closed his eyes for a moment, like he was bracing himself against a wave. When he opened them, they were shining, but steady. Outside, the storm began to fade, the rain softening into a gentle patter. The world beyond the window felt far away, distant and unimportant. Lucas leaned closer, slowly, deliberately, giving me every chance to pull back. I didn't. Our foreheads touched, just barely. The contact was light, almost nothing, and yet it felt like everything. I could feel the warmth of him, the steady rhythm of his breath, the way his body tensed and relaxed all at once. For a moment, time seemed to stretch, the world narrowing down to this single, fragile point. Then he pulled back, just a fraction, enough to look at me. I'm scared, he whispered. So am I said. We stayed like that, caught in the space between what we'd been and what we might become. No promises, no answers, just the quiet understanding that something had shifted, something that couldn't be undone. The rain slowed to a whisper outside, and in that soft, uncertain stillness, we both knew that whatever came next, there was no going back to the way things were. The days that followed felt like walking through a fog I couldn't shake. Everything looked the same. The gym lights humming overhead, the squeak of sneakers on polished wood, the easy laughter in the locker room, but nothing felt the same. Lucas moved through it all like a shadow of himself, present but distant, his eyes always somewhere else. We didn't talk about what happened in his living room. Not in words, anyway. On the court, we passed the ball back and forth like we always had, but there was a hesitation now, a fraction of a second where our eyes met and then quickly looked away. Teammates noticed. They joked about us being off our game, laughed it off, but I felt the weight of every glance, every near miss, every moment that could have been something more. At night, my phone stayed silent. I told myself I was fine with that. I wasn't. One evening, after practice, I found Lucas sitting alone in the bleachers, staring at the empty court. The lights were half dimmed, casting long shadows across the floor. I hesitated at the edge of the gym, my heart thudding in my chest, then walked over. "You waiting for someone?" I asked. He shook his head. "Just thinking." I sat beside him, leaving that familiar inch of space between us. The air felt heavy with things neither of us knew how to say. "My brother's been calling," he said quietly. "He wants me to come home for a while. Says I need to clear my head." "And do you?" I asked. He looked at his hands, flexing them like he was testing their strength. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just running again." The word hung between us. I wanted to reach for him. To tell him to stay. To tell him I didn't know how to go back to before. Instead, I just said, "Whatever you decide, you don't have to disappear." He glanced at me, a small, sad smile tugging at his lips. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," I admitted. "But neither is pretending nothing's changed." The gym door creaked somewhere behind us as someone left, the sound echoing through the empty space. We sat in the quiet, the weight of what we hadn't said pressing down on us both. Lucas stood up slowly. "I don't know when I'll be back," he said. "Or what I'll be when I am." I rose too, my chest tight. "I'll be here." He nodded, like he was committing the words to memory. For a moment, it looked like he might say something more, something important. Instead, he just turned and walked toward the exit. I watched him go, the echo of his footsteps fading into the hum of the lights. Outside, the sky was a deep, uncertain gray, the kind that promises either rain or clearing, but never tells you which. I stood there alone, my phone in my hand, Lucas's name glowing on the screen, waiting. For a message, for a call, for a sign that this wasn't the end of whatever we'd begun. The wind picked up, cool against my face, and I realized I was holding my breath. Somewhere out there, Lucas was choosing a path I couldn't see. And all I could do was stand at the edge of my own, wondering if our roads would ever cross again, or if this moment, this unfinished story between us, was all we were ever meant to have. The night air pressed against my skin like a held breath as I stood on my apartment balcony, watching the city settle into its restless quiet. Streetlights flickered on one by one, casting pale halos over empty sidewalks and parked cars that gleamed like they were waiting for something to happen. Somewhere below, a radio played softly through an open window, the melody drifting upward and dissolving into the dark. I leaned on the railing, my phone warm in my hand, Lucas's name sitting at the top of my screen like a question I wasn't ready to answer. Basketball had always been my anchor. The court, the lines, the rules, everything made sense there. You moved, you passed, you shot. You missed, you tried again. Simple, clean, safe. But lately, even that familiar rhythm felt off, like a song played half a beat too slow. It had started with small things. The way Lucas laughed when I missed an easy shot. The way he stayed after practice, pretending to work on his free throws while really just talking to me about nothing and everything at once. The way my chest tightened whenever he stood a little too close, like my body knew something my mind wasn't ready to admit. I told myself it was just camaraderie. Just teammates. Just noise in my head. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of rain and asphalt. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the cool air fill my lungs, trying to calm the restless hum inside me. When I opened them, my phone buzzed. A message. Not from Lucas. It was from our coach, reminding the team about an early morning practice. Routine. Normal. The kind of message that used to ground me. Now it just felt like another reminder of how much I was pretending everything was fine. I went back inside, the apartment quiet except for the soft ticking of the kitchen clock. Each second felt louder than the last. I dropped my keys on the counter and watched them spin, wobble, and finally fall still. My reflection in the dark window looked like someone I barely recognized. Same face, same eyes, different questions. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank screen of my phone, replaying every moment from the past few weeks. The look Lucas had given me when I helped him up after a hard fall. The way his voice softened when he said my name. The pause that always came right after, like there was something else he wanted to say but didn't know how. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was him. Just one word. Ethan. My heart jumped into my throat. I typed, erased, typed again. A dozen responses fought for space on the screen. I finally sent, yeah. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I held my breath. Somewhere outside, thunder rolled low and distant, like the sky itself was warning me. Whatever Lucas was about to say felt bigger than a late-night message. Bigger than basketball. Bigger than the quiet, careful version of myself I'd been living as. The dots vanished. No reply. I stared at the screen, the unanswered space between us stretching wider with every passing second, and wondered if this was the moment everything was about to change, or the moment I'd realize how much I'd already lost.